approach to resolve. So it's very important to have the concept of problem solving and ideation in place so as to develop a strategy on the industry standard as well as uh, evolving the approach for solutions in modern world. So what's problem solving exactly? Problem solving is the act of defining the problem. Um, well, many times it so happens that a hurdle or a roadblock is what we call a problem, but defining the problem, reaching to the root cause of the problem. There are many more things that we're going to see, but in general, in layman's term, problem solving is the act of defining a problem, determining the cause of the problem, identifying, prioritizing, and selecting alternatives for solution. We will understand as we go what is identifying, what is prioritizing, and what is alternate that we are talking about before we implement the solution. Um, Now, in order to effectively manage and run a successful organization, or for your job as a manager, or for your job as an engineer in an organization to resolve a problem, there are several problem solving techniques. And many of these are being developed by societies such as American uh, Society for Quality, ASQ. You must have heard about the concept of Lean, Six Sigma, and many more. DMIAC. These are the terms that you'll get to know as you learn about the quality parameters. So where do they come from? So American Society of Quality is one such premier society and organization that actually have developed. And who are they? This is not a private company like any other. This is a society which is being curated by people like you and me, who over the years of experience have come across various practices. They discuss this among others, and that's how they have adopted it or validated it or suggested it to the organizations. So it dates back to uh, the days of the uh, uh, Greek Empire, where philosophers used to come together and share their ideas and then adopt, and the rest of the world would basically follow it. Anyway, there are many more organizations. There is a Project Management Institute, which is PMI, from where you can also get a certificate on project management profession. There are certainly many more. For example, you also have change management. There is another society, but basically, there's also Prince 2 by United Kingdom on project management. Anyway, let's get back to the problem solving. So, American Society for Quality Control is a society of quality professions, like we just discussed, with nearly 80,000 members as we speak. Many of the quality scales, as in when we talk about scales, we talk about the measurements, right? So, for example, how do we measure its good quality products? So every product have different scales to be measured on. Right? So American Society for Quality Controls have also defined many such quality scales. They also define approaches, methods adopted by both government and private sector. Um, Again, you know about the internet, the IP address, right? Internet protocol. You must have heard about it. This is also again developed by one of the American institutes, CERN to be exact, in Switzerland, and then curated by one of the universities in the United States. And then it was first adopted by the US military. Then later it was made public and everyone is now using internet. It's like oxygen nowadays. Anyway, so American Society for Quality, these are just 4 steps approach for problem solving whenever you face a problem. Um, First, define the problem. Defining is very important in face. Um, what usually happens is we tend to look at the hurdle or a roadblock, and then we tend to stop working there instead of trying to find a solution around. So it's very important to define the problem. Um, One of the theories also suggests that once you write down a problem, half the problem is solved. If I'm not wrong, it is. Um, anyway, so how do you define the problem? You differentiate fact from opinion. So, for example, let's take the same example. I'm sure many of you have routers and internet at home, Wi-Fi routers, right? So when the internet is not working, there might be several opinions, right? They could be like, well, the wire must have had a breakdown. That the wire that gets internet, the fiber that gets internet to your house or school or office, or it could also be that there's a weak signal. And some might also give an opinion that there's loss of packets. Some might give an opinion that someone else is hogging up all the bandwidth, right? So there are several opinions. How are you going to differentiate a fact from opinion? Well, you need to probe. You need to reach to the root cause of the problem. For this, we have root cause analysis. What is root cause analysis? For root cause analysis is basically going one step ahead, going one step further to identify the exact problem, correct? So what is the problem in this example that we have been using, whether it is the breakdown of the fiber that's getting internet? So how do you check it? So you would see if other devices is getting the internet. If the other devices is getting the internet, then obviously the fiber wire is not broken. If you're getting slow internet, then of course someone else is hogging up all the bandwidth, right? Or if you are not in range, that could also be a problem. So you need to go and do the root cause analysis. Specify, yeah,
And one
specify,
more thing, it will come this fast or it will come after 45 days.
yeah. So now specify underlying causes, uh, like we're talking about the root cause analysis. Find the causes for it, consult each faction involved for information, reach out to all the users or who's looking after at the administrator at the office or school, or if it is home, obviously you need to take the call, state the problem specifically. What is the actual problem? There is no internet is not the actual problem. It could also be there is no speed, or the internet is slow, or I'm not in range, right? So you need to be very specific. Identify what standard or expectation is violated. So obviously, when you're taking or signing up a service, they're going to they're going to give you what uh, they're going to set expectations, and they're going to tell you what exactly is going to be delivered. For example, in Hyderabad, when you're taking up internet, when you're signing up for internet connection from one of the internet service provider by the name Act Fiber, but they have a policy called fair usage policy. Although they say you get unlimited um, you know internet, as in you can download and upload as much as you want without any cap, but there's a fair usage policy involved. So although the ISP says it's an unlimited package, but then there is a fine line of fair usage policy. They will say according to your package how much speed can you expect for what kind of package, and until what download and upload. Now, another thing is determining in which process the problem lies. Avoid trying to solve the problem without data. This is very important. Now, whichever tool, whichever approach, whichever standard, whichever society you adapt to or you chose to for solving a problem, it is very important to know that nobody suggests that you can solve the problem without data. You need to convert data, even if there is no data, you need to convert the facts into data. For example, let us talk about a poll, right? So, an opinion poll. So, let us say you have a class and there's an opinion. Some might say, some might go with, let us say it's let us say that some might want to go with opinion A and some might want to go with opinion B, right? So you need to convert the data. What is the whole class size? What is the sample you have taken from that class size? And how many of them went with opinion A, how many of them went with opinion B. So even if there is no data and there are some facts, you need to try and convert it into data, because only with statistics you can reach a conclusion. Now, this is the first step of defining the problem. Let's go and take a look at the second step. Now that the problem is completely defined, obviously the next step that we're going to look at is a solution. Now, there can be multiple solutions. We are going to continue with the same example. Um, First and foremost, it suggests generate alternative solutions. That is, do not go with the first solution that comes to you, right? So what do you say? Wi-Fi is not working, switch to hotspot. But that's not a solution, right? That's an alternate, one of the alternate to many solutions. Another alternative, you call up the ISP provider and ask to fix it. Another alternative is you take the helm and you resolve it. Another alternative is call your techie friend, right? So so get all the alternatives in place, and in the third step, actually, we do the evaluation of which approach we need to take. The in generating alternative solution, we also have include all involved individuals in generating of the alternatives. That is, who all are involved in the PMP. We call them key participants, right? Who are affected parties and who are involved in decision making, and who all are responsible, right? So you need to identify them. Specify alternative consistent with organization goals. That is, for this problem specifically, although we are expanding it to your regular problems, but then again, we are talking about in the sphere of professional platform. So whatever the problem that you're facing right now, the alternative should never go against the organization goals. So that's what it's saying. So all your solutions should be in line with your organization goals. Specify short and long-term alternatives. For example, currently, let us say I'm having a meeting, and if there is a problem with my internet, what am I going to do? I'm not going to wait till the ISP's provider is going to come and fix it at my home. No, I'm quickly going to switch to my hotspot. So switching to hotspot is a short-term alternative, and the long-term alternative is to permanently isolate and fix the problem. Brainstorm on other ideas. Brainstorming is an activity where a lot of individuals come together, sit together, and they put forward their ideas. It's like storming through your brains. The part where all your creativity and ideas for resolution is being challenged. Seek alternatives that may solve the problem. Each of the alternative solution that we are going to put on the table should be resolving the problem, right? For example, if internet is not working, calling up the support person and and then assaulting him is not a solution that's going to fix the problem, right? So you have to suggest an alternative that is always going to fix the problem. Let's move on to the third step of problem solving. Now that we have the problem defined in first step and we have a lot of alternative solutions at hand, now we are going to evaluate and select an approach or a solution that's actually the best. Evaluate alternatives. When we say alternatives, we're talking about the various solutions that we have come up in step two relative to the target standard. Evaluate all alternative without bias. It should not be like this idea came from my favorite person or this idea came from me, so I would go with it. No, there should be no bias in that. Evaluate alternative relative to established goals. Again, what is your goal? All the alternatives, of course, like we discussed in the second step, should be in line with your organizational goal. Evaluate both proven and possible outcomes. When we say about proven outcomes, we are talking about if there is a record of this approach being implemented or the solution being implemented and what was the outcome. So that is proven outcomes, and possible outcomes is where you are hypothesizing what will happen if you're going to implement a certain solution. State the selected alternative explicitly. Now, once you have, you know, once you have analyzed all of them, and you have, when you have annexed some of them, and then finally you have reached one expert solution. So you need to explicitly write it down that you're going with this solution. Finally, fourth and the last um, step of problem solving is implement and follow up on the solution. Now, this is parallel to any other approach where it's 4 to 5 steps: initiate, define, execute, monitor, and control, and then close. So this is, like we said in the first step, defining is important. It's very important to also control the execution and close it, right? So you cannot just execute the solution and leave it hanging over there, whether it works or not. No, you need to implement it and follow up. Basically, when you're implementing, the follow up means taking control of it, of the situation, and eventually closing it. That is documenting for future, for future references, which solution you worked on, how it worked, and how it may be. It can be, a concurrent problem across the organization. So whatever solution you implemented and worked for you can work for the whole of the organization or any other uh, departments who might be part of your organization, right? So plan and implement pilot tests of the chosen alternative, basically sandbox experiment. That is, you experimented instead of on the live server, because in organizations, if you just can't go ahead and implement your ideas on the real time scenario. They can be financial losses, they can be downtime which certain companies cannot afford. For example, imagine a bank server going down, how much business it is going to lose. The number of transactions that are not going to happen is basically loss, right? So what they do is they first implement it in a sandbox environment. That is basically a similar environment with a similar hardware, similar data that they have taken from the real time, and that's what you tested to see whether there are going to be any adverse effect that you might not have considered, or that might have not been um, it was not assumed. Something out of the blue happens. So that's why you always have a sandbox or a pilot test case. Where and when you implement it, if anything goes wrong, it's not that much of a loss because you are not implementing in the practical real-time business. Gather feedback from affected parties after implementation in the sandbox or pilot tests. Seek acceptance or consensus by all those affected parties. Establish ongoing measures and monitoring. Evaluate long-term results based on final solution. This is the closing, um, in other terms, in other approaches like the PMP, where you are actually documenting and closing it. That is evaluating long-term results based on the final solutions that have worked perfectly in the sandbox or the pilot test, and now you can take it to the live server or in the real-time business scenario, right? So this was basically problem solving. What is problem solving? Now, problem solving, we have seen there are 4 steps to it. That is, define the problem, generate alternative solution, evaluate and select alternative, and then follow up on the solution. I'm sorry. So now you also have so now we also have ideation. What is ideation? Ideation basically helps you achieve these alternatives that we spoke of in the problem solving. That is the alternative solutions. So what is ideation? Ideation is basically coming up with solutions to business problems. Uh, that's how what should be the state of mind, what should be the approach, how should you get an idea for an alternative solution that could be used to solve the business problem, right? So coming up with solutions to business problem can sometimes feel overwhelming. Obviously, if you are new to the industry, then and if you've been asked for by your immediate supervisor to come up with a solution to a problem that your department or uh, your profile is supposed to tackle, right, at work, how are you going to do that? So it's not that. So what should be this kind of approach? Find find a solution, right? So there are several exercises to do that. There are many multiple approaches to do that. Let us see five of the best practices for ideation. Um, Understanding which technique will work best for your team situation can help you generate more ideas and optimal solutions. Basically, it's talking about uh, developing a solution, like we just said, and generating alternative solutions. So one such step and the first and foremost is brainstorming, right? So if you include several of the parties, uh, key elements who are going to be affected, or your teammates, and then you can sit together and brainstorm through the problem and find alternative solution. Brainstorming is a well-known technique that leverages the interaction between a group of people to create solution by building on one another's idea. So it's a group activity where several of us sit together and they talk about the approach, and other provides more interest to that, and then some may provide, okay, this might be the hurdle. So the another party would suggest, okay, how about we uh, we modify this approach so that even this problem is been solved. For more effective brainstorming, use this technique with a group of about 5 to 7 participants. You cannot be you and your friend and call it a brainstorming session. There needs to be at least 5 to 7 participants. Having a smaller group and limiting your brainstorming sessions to 20 minutes help keep the conversation focused. You cannot sit in a brainstorming session for hours. You will run out of your brain juices and ideas. So it needs to be short. And if you feel, you may have it, after a time period, maybe let us say you have a brainstorming session today, and you say, okay, we have come across these solutions, but such and such are going to be the problems with each of them. So let us take 2 or 3 days or a week's time and think more about it, and then come back and do the brainstorming again. Try to include participants from a variety of background and or perspective to generate more diverse ideas. So this is usually what happens in the organizations. The operations, they only sit and they only do the brainstorming. Whereas there are some, let us say, there are some financial aspects to it. So operations comes up with a brilliant idea, and that requires $1 million investment from the company. The company is not. Are you sure the company is going to invest $1 million in your idea? Well, that's why you need to include somebody from the finance, somebody from the higher management. Right? You need to have people of various backgrounds and perspective to sit together in a brainstorming session. To set up a brainstorming session, you need a facilitator who can make sure all voices are heard and guide the conversation. It so happens that some people are, vocal, and some people are introverts, and some people don't like to speak a lot. So there obviously needs to be a facilitator who would make sure everybody gets an opportunity to speak and nobody is a deadlock in the meeting. So everybody is participating and everybody is providing their influence, right? So that's why we need a facilitator. The facilitator should establish an environment that embraces all ideas and discourages negative feedback. It's really important. See, somebody is coming up, somebody might be a new novice, right? They might be new, right? And another person is a seasoned professional. So the seasoned professional would, try to establish the dominance in the room by providing some negative feedback or dissing the idea that might not really be, suitable for this program. So the facilitator ensures that nobody feels discouraged, right? so that everybody is getting habituated to presenting their ideas, whatever comes to their mind. Participants need to raise ideas, listen to one another, then build upon and discuss them as a group. This is very important. It shouldn't be like my idea is completely different from someone else's idea. Then not everyone's idea is working towards the objective goal of the organization. It's basically one is trying to prove my idea is the best, right? So brainstorming is one activity where you discuss the idea, come up with the solution, and the others modify, and then you add more input. So it's not just yours. You might come up with, let us say, let's extend the same example where everyone can relate to, where the internet is not working, the Wi-Fi router, right? So one may say, why not just call the support and let them fix it? The other might find an alternate solution. Well, let us switch to another service provider. Another may come up with, let us try to restart the router or troubleshoot the router and see if it works. Another might suggest that we might switch to hotspot. So now everyone is providing their individual idea. But now when they align with the goal, okay, we need the internet immediately. That's what the goal is right now. So what should we do? Well, let us try to restart the router. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, we'll raise a ticket with the support, and then we'll switch to mobile hotspot until the internet uh, is restored. So this is how you do the brainstorming session. So one may give input, another may build upon it. When you are aligning with the organization goals, of course, the idea can always be uh, parallel to the objective and the goals of the organization. And next is worst idea. It might sound funny, but worst idea is a technique where you ask participants to come up with the worst solution to a problem. Why do we need a worst solution to the problem? Well, it encourages all to come up with something. If let us assume, seven people are sitting, only one guy is giving the idea, or two guys are discussing, while the rest of the five people are like, when is the meeting going to end, and when are we going to get back to our Instagram, right? So to encourage participation from all, um, you need to implement and adapt to worst idea where you ask and encourage everyone to come up with an idea, right? So while a brainstorming session encourages all ideas, some people may still feel nervous, and they might think of potential criticism. So you ask them to give their worst idea. You don't want the best idea. You want the worst of the worst idea, and you encourage people to say the worst idea. So that would basically remove the fear. Stage fear is one of the aspects where, and people tend to have stage fear because they are in our education system. Until the yesteryears, it was not a practice for everyone to share podium with the rest of the guys. So we have in the Indian subcontinent, we have a lot of people having stage fears. There are practices to eliminate that. For example, you stand in front of the mirror and read the newspaper in a loud voice to yourself. That basically goes to uh, stage fear. Yes. Um, it often provides more fun environment. You are thinking of uh, finding a solution to a problem. Imagine how tense the room must be. The room must be. Uh, just imagine a board meeting room where 7 to 20 people are sitting, and everyone is concentrating on the problem, and everyone is trying to get through to find the best solution. Imagine the tension in the room. Now you need to diffuse that. Companies understand that that is one of the reasons why companies like Google, Apple, they create office which reflects the home environment. If you go to the actual Google facility, you wouldn't find cubicles over there. You would rather find desks which has couches, and your pets are allowed, and then you can have your superheroes, mannequins all around. If not the life-size mannequins, the small, the smaller ones that can actually sit on your desk. Why is that? Because that helps developers or creators, relax, diffuse the tension so that they can come up with better solutions. Okay, so that is why we need to come up with first idea. I think we're running out of time over here, so I'll quickly go to the next one. Storyboarding. Storyboarding is a helpful technique when designing or improving processes. Participant creates a visual story that represents their idea. You can think of, a comic strip. Some people are good at drawing flowcharts. Some people are good at jotting down ideas on a piece of paper rather than putting it up verbally. Like in the brainstorm session, it's a verbal session, right? But storyboarding is one of the techniques where you actually put it on a piece of paper. One successful um, alternate approach is that of agile agile approach. You might have heard about agile project management. You have, where what you do is you basically write you break down every of the um, WBS, uh, and then you put it on a piece of paper, a stick note, and you keep on putting that in a box, and then you would later prioritize it based on the available time. So that's also a standard work practice nowadays, especially in the agile world. So that is storyboarding. That's another approach where you actually ask people to put it on a piece of paper, like a comic strip or a flowchart or any such thing, which actually provides scope where people have uh, ability to chart down solutions on paper with much better efficiency rather than verbally explained. The fourth one is mind mapping. Mind mapping is a visual technique again that establishes relationship between the problem your team is trying to solve and potential solutions. In middle, basically in middle of the board, you write down the problem, and then uh, what you do is you strike out lines, and then you write various solutions or ideas raised by the team, and then link it to the central team using lines. You might have seen it in, let us say, a detective movie, or someone trying to find, in a genre of movies such as thriller movies, where people are trying to paste photos and then trying to relate how each of them are related. Mostly you find it in detective kind of movies and series. But that's basically mind mapping. For example, a small business owner could write that they have low social media engagement in middle of the page. Uh, Next, they might create bubbles that represent solution to improve user engagement, such as quality content posting, schedules, and direct conversation. Then they can add a layer that outlines strategic actions to achieve those solutions, such as linking the ideas, post more image, reshare content from influencers and customers. Uh, so this is basically mind mapping. The final, brain writing. Now we have discussed a lot of brainstorming. What is brain writing? Brain writing is a version of brainstorming that works well for more introverted participants. Just like storyboarding, we have brain writing. Each person has a piece of paper and 5 minutes to write down as many solutions to the problem your team wants to solve. Right? At the end of that time, they will then pass the piece of paper to another participant who will build upon the ideas that had written down previously. So unlike brainstorming, where ideas are developed by the group, in brainwriting, one writes in as many solutions in a piece of paper, um, pass it on to the other attendees, and then they will write more and they will develop. So they will then pass a piece of paper to another participant who will build upon the ideas they have originally written down. You will repeat this process until everyone has contributed, and then facilitator collects all the papers and displays them to the whole of the attendees. Once displayed, Everyone will discuss each idea and determine which one best solve your needs, right? Now you can begin improving and building these concepts further for potential use. The advantage of this technique is that it allows everyone to contribute to the ideation process. Everyone is participating and everybody is building on one another's idea and then assessing it to find the best suitable solution and have the ideas considered. In typical brainstorming sessions, some people speak less while others might dominate the conversation. So brain writing actually helps. So these are the 5 techniques that we have basically discussed in ideation and problem solving. So we have what problem solving is, the 4 steps defined by the American Society for Quality. That's defining the problem, generate as many alternative solutions through ideation, evaluate and select the best alternative solution, implement, follow up on the solution, right? And for ideation, we have seen 5 techniques, that's brainstorming, first idea, storyboarding, mind mapping, and brainwriting. I thank one and all for attending this session. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation. It's
Thank you,
really
Priyanka.
worth listening, sir. The 2 webinars that you presented was very informative and we came to know a lot about things. Thanks
I'm
again,
glad.
sir, for taking your precious time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good day.
You too, everyone. Thank you.